And it really all started on March 15th, 2020. I was
Hmm.
in a life-threatening car accident. I was seconds from going flying through the windshield, grabbed my seatbelt seconds before, and was lucky to be alive. Uh, it was a hit and run. They didn't find the person, and it was just like a very huge, just transformative moment for me. I
Hmm.
used to struggle a lot with mental health issues, with depression, anxiety, and self harm. And I really kind of, after that car accident, had this whole new appreciation of life and had this whole new appreciation for just gratitude, and just like my whole perspective on life just shifted.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, where our ongoing goal is to inspire our listeners and help them live their best audacious lives ever. I'm totally thrilled to have you join us on today's episode, and I appreciate that you've taken time out of your day to spend it with us. Now, navigating life's challenges is like a ship sailing through stormy seas. The power of positive thinking acts as the wind in the sail. Self-compassion is the anchor that grounds us, and embracing one's unique strength is the map that guides us towards calmer waters. Carolyn Sophia is an author, speaker, who's found her calling after a life-threatening car accident in 2020, overcoming challenges with mental health. Carolyn's journey led her to write her first book, Unbreakable, and where she shares an inspiring story to help others facing similar challenges. Now, in today's episode, Caroline brings the message of resilience, positivity, and self-compassion to the forefront. Her experience and insights will guide us in understanding the importance of embracing our unique strengths to overcome life's challenges. So now that we've got the table set, let's turn to our conversation with Caroline. Enjoy. Hey, Caroline, thank you for joining me here today on the Audacious Living podcast. I appreciate you making the time to hang out like this. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no, I said, how before we press record, how great it is to be able to engage in conversations, right? That really promote that audacious way of living, and we talk about here on this podcast always and often. And certainly recognizing that that path that we're on to our our best lives ever, and to get to that best version of ourselves, is sometimes is littered with things in our pathway that throw us off course, but it's still incumbent on us to sort of work through those issues and continue on our journey to get to that place of whether you call it success or a higher level or what that end goal, if you will. And then I always say end goal is never really an end, because you're always progressing towards something. But I said moving
Right.
in the right direction as opposed to being stopped. And knowing full well that you are an advocate for mental health as well as an author, we'll certainly talk about your book. This it makes total sense to have you here, to have and to engage in these conversations. So maybe as a starting point, and to fill our audience in a little bit about you and the work that you do, maybe you can sort of give us what you're up to, and kind of what brought you to the point that you're at now.
Yeah, so I am a author and public speaker, and it really all started on March 15th, 2020. I was
Hmm.
in a life-threatening car accident. I was seconds from going flying through the windshield, grabbed my seatbelt seconds before, and was lucky to be alive. Uh, it was a hit and run. They didn't find the person, and it was just like a very huge, just transformative moment for me. I
Hmm.
used to struggle a lot with mental health issues, with depression, anxiety, and self harm. And I really kind of, after that car accident, had this whole new appreciation of life and had this whole new appreciation for just gratitude, and just like my whole perspective on life just shifted. And that is when I decided that it was time for me to use my voice as someone who has
Hmm.
silently struggled for years.
Hmm.
So that is how the whole process kind of started. And that's kind of how I got really big into writing about mental health and suicide prevention, because that's just something that's very near and dear to my heart. I was sitting on the couch a couple weeks after the car accident, and I realized that I had almost faced death not once, but twice, once by choice and once just praying that I'd make it out of there alive. And I knew that that was not a coincidence. And I'm a Christian, and I truly thought that this was God giving me my second chance at life. So I wasn't going to take that lightly. And I was going to do everything in my power to make a positive change. And that is kind of how I started writing my book, Unbreakable.
Well, congratulations first and foremost. I think getting to that
Thank
point,
you.
and I do mean that, like to getting to
Thank
that
you.
point of realization. Sometimes, so I very much want to acknowledge that because getting that point isn't always an easy thing, and it's one that not everyone gets to, right? And
No,
so, there's sometimes people go through their whole lives and not come to the point that you did, and sure, a near death experience brought you there, and I mean. It doesn't matter how you got there. The fact is that you're there, and now you're able to take the most of the moment and move forward.
yeah.
Um, if you can kind of like give me an idea of the picture pre and post accident. Like I certainly get a sense of where you're at now. What was pre accident? What was that like for you?
So I struggled a lot in my life with bullying and just never fitting in and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. And so, from a young age, I was badly bullied. And then when I went into high school and college, I thought it was going to be different. I thought it was going to
Mm-hmm.
be like a great time. My sophomore year of high school, I found out that I had this learning disability, which is called nonverbal. And
Okay.
basically, you're highly verbal, but you struggle with conceptual skills like spatial awareness, which some of my friends explain my parallel parking driving. And you also kind of struggle with just kind of like motor skills and really struggle in school. And I really struggled a lot in school and high school. And so once I found out I had this learning disability, I ended up actually going to boarding school.
Okay.
And when I went to boarding school, that was a very interesting experience. And after that, I kind of just, was like, college is going to be the best 4 years of my life. It wasn't. My freshman year, I realized like 3 weeks in that I made a huge mistake of where I picked. And I really didn't have much of a choice at this point. I was kind of like really kind of upset, depressed, and was like, here we go again. It's the same story all the time. And so one fall night, I almost did take my life, but my best friend in the entire world happened to call me at the right second. And
Mm-hmm.
she saved my life. And I can never repay her for that. I'm so internally grateful for that. And so I truly think it's my duty now to make sure that I can be that voice for someone else who doesn't have that best friend calling them at the right moment.
No, yeah, that is remarkable. The timing of things, it really makes you, really, things don't happen in life by accident, right? And so,
No,
yeah, that's it's great that you got that call when you did. It also sounds like prior to the accident, you had lots of struggles, and so to know that the accident was one of the triggers that sort of woke it because you had a couple of them, right? The phone call from your friend that stopped from taking your own life, and then the other accident as you reference. It's funny. I heard someone once say that sometimes when these quiet whispers in our ears and they get louder and louder if we're not hearing right the messaging, right? And so it's like the message is there, we're not paying attention, it gets louder and louder and louder, and the things that take that the things that happen become more and more significant. And it sort of sounds like you had two of them there that said, "Hey," right? I'm wondering, do you think there might have been other signs along the way that you just didn't hear or pay attention to?
maybe. But to be honest, those were the two big, turning points for me that I can
Mm-hmm.
recall.
Yeah,
Um, but I can truly say that those two moments that happened were completely life altering for sure.
got you. What was the time difference between the two? How long between the two?
So I was a freshman in college
Mm-hmm.
when that I got that call, and then a senior in college when I got into this car accident.
Right, right. Okay, yeah, no. Hmm.
Yeah.
And I wonder if you could start talking about the type of supports that you had, or maybe or perhaps maybe didn't have, that
Yeah.
were available to you. Because that's that. Because so when we started to talk about mental health, a big
Right.
part of that is the supports that either are in our lives or not in our lives.
Right. And, for me, I have the most amazing, loving family. My sister and I, we're older now, so we're best friends. When we were younger, we like fought about clothes and stuff.
Absolutely.
But I just kind of didn't really utilize my support system.
Hmm.
My mom and dad were there and they were always validating of my feelings, which is another thing that some people don't have is validating parents, which I was very lucky and blessed to have that. But my whole thing, how I saw it was like, I didn't want them to worry. I didn't want them to just like be like, anxious of like what's going on with me and stuff. Like, I basically just didn't want them to worry. And I just wanted them to like not have to worry about it. So that's
Mhm.
kind of why I kept to myself and silently struggled for years. But I will say that looking back now, had I utilized that more, had I talked to my mom, my dad more, I don't know how different things would have been, but I do think that something I've learned as I've gotten older is like talking about things and talking about your feelings and talking
Yes.
about how where you're at that specific moment is so important. And sometimes when we keep to ourselves, we actually are just building it up more and more until you get to a point where that
Yeah.
was where I was and I was at my breaking point.
Right, right. And that release has to happen at some point, right? And
Right.
so the gradual one where you're sharing is and even in that you need to be mindful what's happening in the moment for sure, but sharing sort of what's going on and how you're feeling, even for that slight release, can help your overall health. I see, as
Right.
I see.
Right, for sure. And like now looking back, I wish I would have talked to them more. I wish I would have utilized their
Mm,
support more. They really were there for me. And and I was lucky to have that because, since then and since what I've been doing and, speaking and stuff, I've
mhm.
talked to so many kids where they're like, my parents don't get it. They just don't understand. And I always say to them, I'm like, start with open communication and start with talking about how you feel. Be like, I
Mm.
feel this way. Because that way you're not attacking anyone. You're just saying your feelings, and your
Yeah.
feelings are valid.
That's right. And you're taking ownership of it as well, too, right? And I think
Yes.
and I do like that point about your feelings are valid. I think that's a powerful point, actually, so Caroline, because what happens is you feel a certain way and sometimes go, well, I shouldn't feel that way or that's not right for me.
Mm-hmm.
And you absolutely are entitled to feel any way you want
Yes.
to, free of
Yes.
judgment of yourself. That's where it starts, right?
Yes.
So that's a big
Yes.
one.
Definitely.
Um, let's sort of talk about that. You showed is a disability, that nonverbal learning disability that you had.
Yes.
Um, how long before that was actually discovered and you understood what that was?
So I was a sophomore in high school when I found out. The reason that we didn't know for the longest time is because I am a very, very hard worker. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. Like when I said
Right,
I was going to write the book, I'm going to do it. Before I even got approved, I was like, I'm going to do it. And so with school and everything, I always worked really, really hard. I had a bunch of tutors. Like I really did everything I could to do well in school. But the problem is once I got to my sophomore year of high school, it caught up to me. And that was when I took a neuropsych evaluation, which is a test to really kind of figure out why you're failing tests in the first place. And then they're like,
right.
oh, this is why. So it was kind of good to know because it made sense as to why I was having all these years before.
It's funny. I was going to ask you, like, I bet you that helped in sort of making sense of everything. Because it's
It
one
does.
thing to go through something and you got no idea what's happening, but you're trying everything and nothing's sticking against the wall and you're doing your best. You're working
Right.
hard, as you said, and because that's what you do, and it's still not working. And then finally, you do this test and you come to the realization this is what the issue was.
Yes, absolutely.
Must have been
And that's
liberating, I guess, a
it,
little bit.
now, yes. When I first found out, I was really in a bad place in high school. So I really struggled with my anxiety, with my depression. I was in a
Sure.
pretty bad place. I went to like this small Catholic middle school, and then I was going to this huge public school. So
Yep.
like everyone had their groups, everyone had their friends. Like
Sure.
I just like didn't fit in.
Mhm.
And so then to find that I had something that made me even more different, I was beside myself at first.
Right.
I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
And it took some time to be like, you know what, this is actually a really good thing to know because now you know why you are the way you are.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it helps to learn more about that.
It I think you're absolutely so. I agree with you absolutely, and you think about high school and on its own is enough as is. There's no challenges, right? And so
Yeah,
you
that's for
add
sure.
this to it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
whether people are
Yeah.
trying to fit in and the mental health conversations evolved over the years, right? It's gone from don't talk about it at all to it's out in the forefront, and people are very much they're claiming and saying, hey. this is what I have and here's what my issue is. I still think there's a lot of work to do, and I'd be curious to get your thoughts on that. But I think there's a lot of work to do in terms of getting people to be able. Not, it's. I think the next part about that is so we have people talking about it, how it's received. I think that's an area that we could still do a lot of work. How we receive individuals that come in and say, "I've got this wrong with me," or "This is what's happening for me."
Yeah, I think the biggest thing again goes back to the open conversation,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that people are still, I mean, there's still a stigma and there's still a, oh, you have this wrong with you, like I don't want to be associated with you, like whatever. But I think it really is coming back to the point of like, how about we go back to empathy a little bit more and understand that we're all going through something
Mm-hmm.
and everyone is struggling, whether you see it or not. There is something that everyone is struggling with because no one has a perfect life. And anyone who tells you that they do is completely BSing you. Like no one does. And that's just the reality. But it's just like people, especially at that young age, try to act like they have it, like they're like cool and like all that stuff and they don't have any issues and like whatever. But I will say that in high school kids, especially, being more accepting is something that they need to work on and understand because it is something that so many kids struggle with. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
something that needs to be talked about in a normalized fashion.
Well, when you think about it, it's in that environment. People are still trying to find themselves.
Right.
They don't fully know who they are yet. So to
No.
be able to say, "Hey, it's great for me." Well, hold on a second here. Who are you? Right? Do you know who you
Right.
really are? And
Right.
there's also a piece about this that who you are now may evolve into something later.
Yep.
Not all that far down the road, right? As you begin to amass experiences and
Yep.
gain knowledge and perspectives. And so, yeah, no one's got it all together, especially in high school. That's for sure. I didn't. I can
Definitely
tell you
not.
that.
Oh, yeah. I was far from it. I was literally like off the deep end. I didn't even know who I was. That's the thing. And I'm 27 now, and it probably has taken me like almost like 24 years to really know who I was and be confident in who I am and accept myself for who I am because I think that's another thing too though. It's like so many kids are just not accepting of themselves. And when you have that plus people on top of you being like, "Oh, like what's wrong with you?" or like whatever. It's like it all kind of just builds and builds and builds. And
Yes.
when you have that over and over again, it's just a recipe for disaster, to be honest with
Yes.
you.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a big part of that, knowing who you are is being very clear on your strengths.
Yeah.
I know for me when I was in high school, I wouldn't say I was awkward and like that, but I'll admit I put on a bit of a facade because
Right.
I was kind of known, right, and I was well liked, and I fell back into that, while I wasn't in the cool kids camp, I still was well known and liked as a likable guy, so people liked me. And so I kind of stayed in that area because it was
Very
comfortable for
different
me.
experience than what I had.
Yeah, right. And so, but I still struggle. Well, that's the thing. And so that's why I'm sharing the story because I was again, I wasn't with the cool kids, but I was still liked. And so I wanted to stay in that like space. So I just stuck to that strength and not fully opened up into the full me, if you will, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, like the real authentic, like unapologetically version of yourself.
Yeah, yeah. And so I wonder then if you could talk about the whole idea of being sure of your strengths and how you
Mhm.
can use them in a positive way.
Yeah, that's actually something that goes back with the nonverbal. So when I first found out, I was like, I'm stupid. I don't get things the way that normal people do. I really struggle with, all these like, math and science and just like I never clicked. And when I got older and I realized, especially after the book, I realized that writing was a huge strength of mine.
Mm,
And I never really looked at it like that before, but I was like, hey, wait a second. I'm really good at this. I might suck at all these other things, but this is a strength of mine. This is something I can really dive into. This is something I can really kind of make more of for myself. And that's kind of how, like, the whole book and everything, with that, it's like, I was like, wait a second, this is something I'm good at. I didn't realize that until I just, let all my emotions out on paper. And And there it was. I was like, wow, like if only I would have known this in college or, whatever. But also that's the beauty of life is, experience is a great teacher, as my dad always says. And so it's just like, it's just crazy because I truly I love writing and it's a huge
Yeah.
strength of mine. And
Yeah.
math I can't do for my life.
Well, and that's okay, right? The important thing is knowing, right? Knowing what
Right.
you can lean back into, and once you do, then you can put yourself on that path. Because what it does, Caroline, it also helps build your confidence, and
Right.
confidence is a wonderful remedy or medication, if you will, when it comes to mental health issues, right? Gaining the confidence, feeling good about yourself, you hold your head up higher, you stand up straighter, if you will. You're not as afraid. Not to say that the mental health issues aren't there, but at least if you're more confident, you give
Mm-hmm.
yourself a chance to
Yes.
combat it.
Yeah, I think that's the thing though, is I thought for the longest time that I didn't have any strength and I thought that I was like
Mm,
useless and I thought, I wasn't popular and like I didn't really fit in and like all this stuff. So here I am, I'm thinking, okay, I don't have any strengths with social skills or people or whatever. And then fast forward, 10 years later and I'm writing a book and that is for sure without a doubt my proudest accomplishment because if it can help one person not go through what I
yes.
went through,
Hmm.
then that's exactly what I want to do and keep using my voice because I
I
was
love it.
so shy for so many years and had this facade of who I was and wouldn't really be myself because, you know, God forbid your real self in front of like friends and
Yeah.
so it like takes a while to find your real friends and your people and I'm just very grateful at this point in my life that I have definitely found that.
So if I had come to Caroline 10 years ago and said, "Hey, you're going to be on this podcast called the Audacious Living Podcast, and you're going to encourage individuals to live their best lives ever and come out of their shell and fight through their discomforts and be confident," what would you have said?
No, like literally, it's so crazy because I just like it's true. I never would have even thought that I would have actually lived to 27. And
Mm,
the beauty of just understanding yourself and everything and really kind of doing therapy and stuff is the truth was that I was in therapy for years, but I was
mhm.
not taking it seriously. They were giving me these worksheets and I was like, this is so stupid. Like I throw it away. And then when you actually realize like, hey, mindfulness is a skill and retraining your brain is a skill and learning to find the gratitude and the good in life is a huge skill. And it's just something I didn't realize. And maybe because I was younger and I just like didn't know, but I just see that as now as something of like, if I would have actually taken this seriously, how different would life have been like
Mm,
sooner? Like, would it have been sooner in my life that I would have started to be better and, be almost, instead of being almost 7 years clean of self harm now, maybe
mhm.
it would have been 10. You know what I mean? So
Right,
it's
right.
like those type of things, but you can't look back, you can only
No.
move forward.
Absolutely, absolutely. You talked earlier about internalizing
Mm-hmm.
what you're going through, and I wonder if you could sort of talk a bit about the internal conversations that we have and
Mm-hmm.
how important they can be to our health, or maybe even to our detriment.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that self deprecation is something that I used to be a pro at because it would be like something like, oh, you messed up, you're stupid. Oh, you didn't do that right. Like, you're not as smart as everyone else. Oh, wait, you messed up your makeup. You look ugly. Like, it's really this constant battle that's going through in your own mind. And it's really about learning how to take those negative things. Something that my therapist actually taught me once is that whenever you have a negative thought about yourself,
Hmm.
try to fill it with the opposite. So if
Okay,
you're saying I'm ugly, be like, wait a second, I'm not ugly. Maybe I wasn't having my best hair today, which I'm not. You know what I mean? So it's like it's things like that, like just little things that can like help you be like, oh, that's normal, that's fine. And it really took me a long time to rechannel and retrain my brain. And trust me, I still have anxiety and I still
sure.
deal with even to the point now where I'm like, oh my gosh, like should I say this or this, But I also understand now that like what I say or don't say or whatever, it's like I can't blame myself for these past mistakes. Or if I
Yeah.
mess up or if I don't feel the best about myself, I can't get down on myself. we do not give ourselves enough grace in life. And
Mm,
grace is the one thing that you have to learn to give yourself in order
yes.
to get better from your mental health issues. Because if you can't accept that, hey, you know what? I might have been struggling with this and I might have really gone through this, but you know what? I've made it on the other side and I'm going to give myself some grace because, hey, you know what? It wasn't the easiest and I'm going to get through it and I'm going to make it to the other side. But giving yourself unconditional grace
Yeah.
is the biggest thing for sure.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And I mean, you can mess up 100 times, but as long as you again give yourself some grace and you understand that
Yeah.
what you did, okay, it shouldn't have happened. You didn't want it
Right.
to happen. That wasn't the intention for it to happen, but it did. And now what?
Right.
And I think there's a part of this that we sometimes sort of we get so focused on the mistake that happened that sometimes we
Mm-hmm.
miss out on the benefits or the lessons learned from that mistake, right?
Absolutely.
And so as you know, as bad as mistakes may be, if you aren't harmed and you got all your limbs intact and everything is okay, then how
Yeah.
bad is it?
Right. Right. And I think that's the other thing too, though, is its perspective is everything.
Yeah.
And I certainly learned a new perspective on life and everything, especially in 2020, because not only was I writing this book, but then one of my best friends, I found out she had leukemia. And
Mm,
it was like a crazy shift in my brain because it was
okay.
like, like everyone, no one's problems are bigger or smaller than the others.
Right.
Everyone's problems are valid. But if you
Mhm.
look at the perspective of like, hey, you know what? I'm doing pretty well. There are a lot of people who are going through something that I am lucky to not be going through it right now.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it just, it puts this whole new appreciation on life too. And, had that have happened when I was in my worst states of life, maybe my perspective would have shifted then too. But it wasn't until I was writing the book and this happened that I realized I was like, you know what? Like, I am so blessed and grateful that I'm alive from this car accident, that I'm
Mhm.
able to use my voice to hopefully make a difference and even inspire even one person,
Yeah.
and then to find out this, I was like, man, like I'm lucky that I have my health.
Yep.
And it's little things like that too, that if you can kind of like not like compare, but shift your perspective a little bit,
Yep.
it'll change everything.
It's funny because when you sort of look at what other people are going through and you do that compare, sometimes we do that, right? And you'll see you may see someone in a worse situation
Right.
handling their situation better than yours, right? That's really eye-opening, right? Like you're going, here I
Yes.
am struggling with this person's got it way worse and they're handling it way better than I am, right? Like there's no much you can learn from that too.
That's exactly how my best friend was too. She's luckily cancer free now and it's a huge blessing. And,
Mm-hmm.
she definitely still has some things she has to move towards. But, it's just crazy because the way that she handled it, the way that she was like, like, I feel the angels today. Like, it's a beautiful day, like all of this stuff. It taught me a way of like, no matter how bad a situation is,
Mm-hmm.
if you're positive in it and if you're just going to do everything you can to try to make the best of it,
Yep.
it's just like she's taught me so much about grace and about just appreciation of life. And it's crazy because you can have people in your life who really just teach you this whole thing that you feel like you were missing up until that point. And
Right.
with her, it's a beautiful thing because one, like she kept praying and she kept hoping, and she knew she could get through it. And and I think that was beautiful because going through a illness or going through something where you can't have any control over it, and it's something that you kind of just have to, for me, it's just trusting in God, and I always say to people, I'm like, find something to trust in. If you're not Christian, that's fine, but
Sure.
find something to believe in, find something to have faith in, to trust in, and I think that that's the thing too, though, with her is like, we just always kind of had faith and we're like, you know what, like you're gonna battle through it, like you're gonna
Right.
get through this, like your story is gonna inspire people, like I know you're going through this now, but just wait, like
Right.
there's gonna be so much good that's gonna come from this and it's just gonna be an amazing thing.
I love it. I love it.
Mhm.
You mentioned your book a couple of times, Unbreakable, is your first book that you published. Tell about the title. What does it mean, and the book itself?
Yeah. So people ask me all the time how I came up with Unbreakable as the title.
Mhm.
Just one
Yep.
word, And it's funny, a couple weeks after the car accident slash once I started writing the book, I realized I was sitting in my kitchen. This is when like my mom and dad were with me. This is like when COVID was happening. And, my sister and brother-in-law, they were they don't live in Pittsburgh anymore, but I was like sitting with them and I was like, wait a second. I was like, you know what, Dad? I am unbreakable. I can get through anything. Oh, there it is. That's the title. And that's actually how the title came to be.
I love it. Simple, simple and easy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I
Awesome.
love it because Unbreakable is not just a book to me. It's not just a, a word. It's something to live by because when you can live with that resilience, when you can live with the fact of like, I might get knocked down. People might not like me. People might say shit about me. People might just like be
Sure.
not the nicest to me. And I might fail sometimes, but you know what? I'm unbreakable because I'm going to get back up every single time and I'm going to come back even stronger than I was before. And I think that's the beauty with the word unbreakable is like you can get through anything. You can make it through your hardest times if you just have faith in something, if you just believe that there is going to be a light at the end of the tunnel. And there always is. It's just sometimes people can't see it. And that is what breaks my heart the most is when people who don't get that chance and, people who have to go through what I went through, but they don't get to, you know, it makes me sad when people aren't given this second chance to. And I think that's why I'm really passionate about what I'm doing is because I'm doing it for all the people whose lives are not are no longer.
Beautiful, beautiful. When did the speaking come into play? That kind of happened with the book, or because I mean, now you're taking like it's one thing to write in a book, now you're taking speaking. That's a whole other level.
Yeah, I love speaking. It's so funny. When I was in college, I hated public speaking. We had to do a public speaking like our final, and I was like, I can't do it. I'm so much excited. I can't do it. But how it kind of started was after my book Unbreakable was published, I kind of realized that I wanted to do more. I
Sure.
realized that I wanted to be in the mental health space. I wanted to inspire and help people. And so when I realized that speaking was an opportunity, I was like, this is amazing. Like, and after my first speaking engagement, it was like, this makes sense. Like, this is what it is. And,
Sign me up.
yeah, sign me up. I was like, let me do this all the time because it's
Right.
like when those kids come up to you and say, you helped me, I'm going through the same thing. I actually have hope that I'll get through it now that like it literally means more to me than anything in the world.
I love it. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Caroline, this is just this look, again. I acknowledge and congratulate you off the top, and I have to do so again.
Thank
It's one thing to start a journey, not know where you'll end up, or not, or doubt you'll even end up anywhere, and to be where you're at now. I'm sure your past self has no recollection of what your future self looks like, and wouldn't believe you if you're told, right? Which is a beautiful thing. So again, congratulations on that.
thank you.
For our listeners that wanted to sort of learn more about you or connect with you or maybe invite you to speak to their group perhaps, where can we send them?
It's carolynsophia.com. I launched it a couple months ago, and it's really just my name and then my middle name. And you can just go there. You can go to book me or connect with me, and it'll directly send me information about it, and then we can get booked and get on a call and see if it's a good fit.
Awesome, awesome. Well, look, we're going to make sure that the appropriate details in the show notes for our listeners as well. And I want to thank you for
Yeah, of
taking the time
course.
again. It's been a lot of fun, great chat, and again, I just great admiration in the strength of your journey. And
Thank
what you've
you.
taken from that, and what you're able, but it doesn't just stop there. It's what you're doing with it afterwards, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing. So, congratulations, all the
Thank you.
best, and take care.
Thank you. You as well.
Back we are here in the podcast. Much thanks and appreciation goes out to Caroline for being here. Congrats again for overcoming in the manner in which you did. I really love the way that you not only just overcame, but also you took those experiences and are now helping others. So that's really, really great stuff. Now, when we reflect on the key takeaway from our conversation with Caroline, it's the transformative power of self-compassion and positive thinking in the face of adversity. By embracing our strengths and practicing self-love, we can navigate life's challenges and obstacles with courage and resilience. Now, if you want to connect with Caroline directly and learn more about her inspiring journey, I'd encourage you to visit her website, carolynsophia.com, and explore the opportunities to engage with her for possible speaking engagements or even coaching sessions. Be sure to check out her book, Unbreakable. It's a powerful memoir of her own personal journey towards resilience and self-discovery. And again, that's available on her website as well. Thank you for tuning into the Audacious Living Podcast. If you found value in today's episode, I'd encourage you to like, follow, subscribe, share if you're not already doing so, because of course, that's how we reach even more listeners and continue to inspire people to live their best audacious lives. Stay tuned for more empowering content in future episodes, for we got lots more coming. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stevenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.